quit my job? Why have I, bought a van? And why am I going to drive around the country? Well, I'm passionate about the idea that you need to be heard. And I want to stitch these stories together across the states. We're going to find the commonalities. And it's going to be really an amazing experience. And I look forward to you joining me on the job. Hello, everybody. Good morning, and welcome back to Mental Health Today. It's been a hot minute since I've been behind this microphone on the Mental Health Today side, and it's really fun to show that old video. It's about almost 2.5 years, or 2 years ago, actually, since the video was made, and a little bit longer for the voiceover, when I decided I was going to drive around the country with this big van and jar full of 444 questions and sit down at people's kitchen tables and hear their life story and document it, record it, and have a real opportunity to kind of instill a little bit of Americana back in myself after being gone from the country for quite some time. And that video is just a great reminder for me of the purpose of when I started it. And that was for to hear people's stories and that crushingly human thing that we've got, that we want to be heard. And in today's society, and with the goldfish mentality and the TikTok flipping and the scrolling, it's hard for us to even to hear our own selves think, let alone to spend time and listen to somebody. So it's a great opportunity for me to put that stuff down and sit across the table and hear people's stories. That did, however, open up kind of a Pandora's box in hearing about the mental health crisis, the stories that people had and the journeys that they went through to get to the place they were, the comfortable place they were when we met them. And they were at least on an island, at least in a safe spot. A lot of people were in a very nice place after a tough journey, but a lot of the guests we had were really, just on that new fresh road and sharing it. So I started this show to learn as much as I could about the crisis and what people were doing around it. And it's taken a little bit of a journey, and we've done all kinds of different episodes and, different kinds of guests. And so now I'm starting kind of season 2 fresh, and I've got Joe and Carol Szuky here with me. So very excited to hear your story. I got a surprise with Joe in the room. I've read Carol's background a little bit, and I have a feeling it's not going to be about that. I have a feeling we're going to get a really good surprise. So if you're listening on this on an audio, thanks very much. Make sure afterwards to give us a bit of a rating. And if you've got any comments, put those down below. Joe, Carol, thanks for meeting me on this afternoon. I really appreciate your time, and really appreciate you willing to get in front of the camera and share your story.
Thanks for having
Absolutely.
us, Ken.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit, Carol, I've got your website, but as you said, when you were giving me the website to post, that it's our site's not done yet. And so I think that was a peek, that was a little bit of a peek behind the curtain to something's brewing, and you've got a story. What brings you to us today?
Absolutely. Well, thanks for checking out my website, Ken, which is carolszuky.com. And that is more so for my abundance mentoring, where I love to help people, find the abundance in their life. And abundance is not just about money. It's about like a wholesome, happy, joyful life of gratitude. And so I guess off of that, I really wanted to help people in a way that really helped me find abundance in my life, because here I have my husband, who just about 2.5 years ago, we've discovered that he suffers from narcissistic personality disorder.
Oh, man. This is such a great story. I have so many. Oh, God. How can you be together when you find that out? Because I heard some really rough stories on the road.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. It
Really
is a
rough
tough
stories.
journey. It's a really tough journey. But at the same time, I guess myself, as a natural born healer, I'm going to say, someone who really sees energy in people more so than listen to the words that they say. I knew that even though my husband had some awful tendencies, I knew there was just this absolute teddy bear about him. And it's almost as though he didn't even know who he was. And I can see that through
Interesting.
his eyes. Mhm. Mhm.
Is it I don't know the origins of, narcissism, and maybe you can help the audience a bit on this. Is it I mean, obviously, everything's learned, I guess. When as I'm asking my own question, I'm gonna go ahead and answer it. Obviously, you didn't come out a narcissist,
Yep.
and so I guess if you can learn something, you can unlearn something.
Absolutely. Thank you for stating that without really getting any information, any background information. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very simple concept.
How though, because knowing a bit about narcissism, especially interviewing, I can think back and I'll forget her name, but, we were interviewing in her home, and she said, "The narcissist doesn't know it. He's at work right now, but this is one of my last days here, and I'm
Wow.
just gonna 20 something years of marriage."
Wow. Mhm.
And she had, like it hit her like a sledgehammer in the head one day, and when it started to unravel, when she started to realize the play she was in, the acting, the whole thing
Mhm.
came crumbling down around her, life came crumbling down, and the realization was she needed to get out,
Mhm. Mhm. And I
to
had
run.
that realization too.
Yeah, so what I
Mm.
mean, when did you realize it? I mean, a couple of thoughts, maybe I'll let you run with this, but what was that aha moment for you? And then obviously you wanted to run, but at some point you dug in because your healing nature and you've got a few kids. You probably want to keep the family. You didn't want to throw everything out. And then how do
Mhm.
you convince a narcissist that they're a narcissist and then convince them to help everybody?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with a little bit and I'll let Joe follow up.
Okay.
You asked about my aha moments. So in 2019, late 2019, November exactly, um, I lost my father suddenly. He went in
Mm,
for operation, and 2 days later, he passed peacefully. And my dad was my rock. Uh, Interestingly enough, his nickname was Rocky. And when I lost my rock, I knew I had to find my own strength. I was
mm,
definitely a daddy's girl. If I was ever sad, I knew I can talk to my dad. If anybody I knew cared about my feelings, I knew it was my dad. Not that anybody else doesn't care about me, but
mhm.
father and daughter just have a special bond.
Yeah.
So when I lost that, and of course, the pandemonium of 2020 hit, I had a lot of time to think. I had time to grieve, and I
Yeah.
had a lot of time to think. Um, my eldest daughter also moved in with my mom because she was close to the university. And I very specifically remember one day that she came and slept over. And the next day she's like, "Oh, is it just you and me? Did daddy go to work? The kids are at school?" And I said, "Yeah." She's like, "You know what? I'll stay a little bit longer." And we sat out on the back deck and she says, Mom, I love coming home to see you. And of course, my siblings. But she said, it's just really hard with dad. And, now that I moved in with my mom, um, her grandmother, she's like, I know like how peaceful a home can be, and that doesn't feel like our home.
Wow.
So
That
that was a
that's
stab in
heavy.
the heart. Yeah. As
Wow.
a
That's
mother,
heavy.
to be told that your home doesn't
It's
feel like
not.
home to your child
Yes.
was heartbreaking. And
Oof.
so I knew I had to have the tough conversation with my husband because there was no way that I would live my life without my kids having my home feel like home.
I love that's the final straw. I love it. You drawing the line right. What I mean, that's heavy.
Mhm. Sure was. And so I had the conversation.
Yeah, and again, it was Ken. It was one of those things where um, you don't something has to change, but you don't know what it is. I didn't know I had
Yeah.
narcissism, and as Carol started to educate me on it, she would talk to me about certain things, certain situations. I realized how toxic my home life was as a child.
Yes.
That is where it all started, and I realized how detrimental it was and I was very close with my father, who I didn't know at the time, was a narcissist. So living very closely to him, I developed these personalities.
Yeah, of course, you model them. I
Um,
mean, it's your dad,
yeah, and I
and
mean, you think it's okay. You think it's life. You think it's just you're being a stoic man. You think that I can count on one hand the times I cried in my life, showing no emotion, very selfish in my behavior, very controlling, manipulative,
Mhm.
not only to my wife but to my children as well. But I didn't at the time realize how detrimental it was to the household. And only until I hit, I'm going to say rock bottom, when my
Mhm.
wife had come to me and had the conversation with me to say, "Hey, this is it. I can't do this anymore. Cannot subject the kids to this type of behavior. Me as a parent, this is where we're going to break away." And at that point is when I really realized I mean, we've had these conversations in the past, you know what I mean,
Yes.
on a not so much of a serious level, but this one, the straw that broke the camel's back, it opened my eyes. If Carol can remember, my eyes it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I realized what I had at stake. I realized how much I really loved my wife. And only at that point did I start to listen. I really started to listen to what she had to say about this disorder.
Wow.
And I know people say, "Oh, well, then that's very hard for a narc to be able to
Yeah, yeah.
listen to this and admit to it." But you know
Yes.
what? Love conquers all, and this is a fine example of it, because I love my wife. I mean, I can't even begin to say how much she's done for me in my life. And not to mention a great wife, a great mother to my children. And I realized how selfish and terrible I was to her. And it was just one of those eye openers where I said, okay, something has to change here.
Yeah. I mean, that's a that's a heavy that's a heavy conversation to accept, because that's a lot of self. Because I think also too, Joey, I mean, you open that door to self-reflection.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of material there for you to parade in front of yourself as bad Joe. Like, that's a lot of reconciliation to absorb. How have you gotten through that? I mean, honestly, that's quite heavy for an individual.
It is. And it hasn't been an easy road for Carol as well. It's one of those things. I've went through countless hours of therapy. I've
Okay.
got a great
Okay.
therapist who helps me along the way. This is not
Okay.
something you can beat on your own.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering if you were in therapy.
Not
Yeah,
not even close.
yes.
It's so deep. It's so deep rooted within you. Subconsciously, there's things that happen and you don't even know,
Oh, yeah.
from the gaslighting to the manipulation at some points that you don't even know is happening. You don't. But
Yeah.
through her constant reassurance, her constant, hey, accountability. Hey, Joe, you're doing this. Oh shit, I'm sorry, Carol. This and that. It's you get to that point. But again, if you as a narcissist can't admit that you have a condition,
Yes.
it cannot be fixed.
Oh, yeah. How is your father still alive?
He is. He is alive and well. My parents, unfortunately, just due to the dynamics of it all, I can't be around them because it's detrimental to my road to recovery. So, I mean, there's various reasons for them not accepting my wife, to thinking she took me from them. Like, there's so many. It's unbelievable,
Coming up
but
with these crazy ideas like you're actually manipulating people, and you're in control. It's kind of funny. So
Mhm.
your dad and mom are in the loop. They're in the they're
oh,
in
absolutely.
the
My
they're in
dad
the
more so.
ecosystem. Yeah,
My
yeah.
dad more
Okay.
so. He's the I'd say the ring bearer on that one. And then my mom kind of, she's what you would call his flying monkey. She possesses traits. I don't believe she is the narcissist, but she possesses the traits and supports him in his.
Well, it's a symbiotic relationship at this point, right? They've been married 50 years or whatever, and I would imagine a long time, 30 something years, I would guess.
You're not
So
far off by 50.
yeah, so there. I mean, so at that point, how any recognition? I mean, I guess there's no any ability to kind of cross that bridge and say, Dad, I've found this is what I've uncovered, and I think that might be attributed to my home life.
And
Ever able to have that conversation or no?
Oh, we've tried to have the
Yeah.
conversations on separate occasions, but it's one of those things. Like I said, if you don't believe you have an issue, like when you tell them that it's not them that screwed up, it's the rest of
Yes.
the world. So I mean, by doing that, you're let's for lack of a better term, you're beating a dead horse on it.
Yeah.
And it just gets worse and worse and worse as the conversation goes on.
I would imagine that's a 3-alarm fire for a narcissist, right?
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
it's all hands on deck, right? Pull out every tool you've got because you cannot take on this water, right? We're not sinking this
Absolutely.
ship. Yeah. So you are definitely going to be the bad person. Wow. So it even costs you your family, even costs you your relationship with your family.
And you know what, Ken? I'm okay with that because my family here is what
Yeah.
matters. That there, I've lost, I've got 3 sisters that, I talked to one, but the other
Mhm.
2, the enmeshment with my mother and father, they don't recognize my point of view. They only see my parents' point of view. So I'm the problem, so to speak. Right. So,
Yeah, they're
I
still. I
mean,
mean, they're the victims, right? I mean, they're in the ecosystem that Dad
Mhm.
created.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right, and there's you can't it's hard to peek out, and they're probably taking on the narcissist behavior themselves, quite
Yeah, they
possibly,
are. Yeah.
or found a narcissist, one or the other.
Yes.
I would imagine that's the protocol. Boy, are you lucky, Joe. Holy cow.
Oh, I got a good one.
You might have found a keeper.
Yeah.
You might have found a keeper. Oh, that is Carol, what a brave, I mean, That I to have your daughter, I mean, you gotta love your daughter for that, right? To be able to have that confidence and to be able to also come out of it her own self.
Absolutely. It's very important for me to be able to converse with my children. It
Hmm,
didn't matter how awkward the topic was or how hard it was or what kind of big mistake they think that they have made.
yes.
I always told them, "You can talk to me." My initial reaction might not be the best, but but I'll eventually calm myself down and I want to be there for you without any
Right.
judgment and unconditionally. And I'm glad that she took that opportunity to be open and honest with me because they're who I live for, right?
Yep. Serious eye
Oh,
opener, that's for sure.
Mhm.
great eye opener. She sounds like your daughter well, you must have done something right, Joe and Carol, because, you got a daughter that's willing to come up there and spit the facts,
Yes. Yeah.
and confidence. Um
Mhm.
I mean, Joe, I'm super impressed that through that fog, you can see some bit of enough truth. Um,
And it wasn't easy, can I be honest? Like thank God, my wife is very, very well educated in this
mm,
condition. And again, I'm not sure I would have put my finger on it had I have not, you know, unraveled a bit and let my
yeah,
wife kind of get through to me, because it certainly was an eye opener to me, and I didn't believe it at first. But when she she started naming
yeah, yeah,
the symptoms and this, it's too hard to deny.
yeah,
You're a
yeah.
fool if you deny it.
Yeah. Are you guys spiritual at all? I mean,
I'm totally
Absolutely,
spiritual.
yeah, absolutely.
Very
yeah,
much so. Yeah.
yeah. I would think you need some kind of either religious or spiritual grounding to kind of anchor
Absolutely.
yourself through something like this. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
because
think it helps both of us very
Oh,
much.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, this
Knowing
kind
that
of
there's something beyond us that has
yes.
brought us together or is keeping us together, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I would say. There's gotta be something bigger than you to hold you, because otherwise you turn against each other.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
very easily. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think being able to turn towards each other and hey, wait till you get grandkids. I mean, this is the best reason to Joe to get through all this, right? Is to get on the other side.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
And, to think your mom and dad lost out on the grandkids, poopy, man. What a bad move on their part. The
And they
best part
did. They lost a lot of time with him, let me tell you.
yeah, and it's tough. I think there's a lot of people in that scenario that are willing to double down on their own beliefs, and not be willing to open up and listen and to at least take a step forward, right? I may not
Mhm.
agree with you, but I meet you halfway and I can hear what you got to say. And, you know, I may not agree with you, but it doesn't mean I want to exile you or make somebody a bad person out of this.
That's right.
I
And
don't
believe
think I
me,
would.
Ken, we tried. Like this wasn't a, cut
Oh,
cut it off. I mean, we've had a couple of conversations with him, and we were willing to just agree to disagree on it,
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And just accept for the moments that we're together to tolerate each other, and for the sake of the grandchildren, for the sake of the
Yeah.
family. But
Yes.
it was either this way or that way. So I chose the high road, and I do not regret it one bit. So
Well, and your arms, I'm sure the door's open, I would imagine with you too. You're
absolutely.
waiting, hoping they kind of come back. I have this incredible compulsion to pull a question from the jar, which normally I've never done on this show. This
Yeah,
is
let's
Mental
do
Health
it.
Today show, but I've got this jar full of
Awesome.
questions, and I've been
Yes.
I've been doing some good fun with this other show. I have a show called The Humanists. You guys would have been great on The Humanists, but I'm going to pull a question out of the jar,
Let's do it.
uh,
Okay.
just for you guys. And I don't know, I just got a compulsion. I'm like, I gotta. Hmm. Okay, fun one.
Okay.
This kind of cuts for both of you, and there's some good parts in this to you. I'll let you interpret it as you may. That's
Okay.
the idea behind the cards. My words, but it's your question.
Okay.
What's your biggest fear that may keep you from your dreams?
Oh, my biggest fear that
That,
may
that
keep me
keep
from my
from your
dreams.
dreams. And you guys could, it's almost a couple's question in a way. I feel like it's a we question.
Okay. Our
As a
biggest fear.
family, like a family question in a way, because I think that's kind of the vibe I get from it.
Okay.
If I can shape it that direction.
Biggest fear that may keep us from our dreams.
Oh, that's a deep one. That is
Yeah. Biggest fear that may keep us from our dreams.
Go with the first thing comes to your mind.
Whew.
Just spit it out.
I'm gonna say, oof. Maintaining purpose
Hmm.
in how we serve.
Yeah,
We're on a mission to, support other couples, marriages that are in the same situation as us.
I love that.
And I want to be able to keep helping and keep serving, because a lot of people right now are very resistant to what's happening between us and the fact that we're together. Oh, she must have Stockholm syndrome. Oh, he's just got her all wrapped around his finger. Oh, she's delusional.
He's a super narc.
oh yeah.
He's spun this around to where you think you're helping him.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so I just hope we can keep sharing our message.
Yeah, that's a big one. And you know what? My biggest fear, Ken, is me staying the same.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Me staying the same and not
Yes.
seeing what my true self, like my better version of myself, what I can do and what I can accomplish together with my wife. That's a big one for me.
I mean, shedding who because that's not who you are, right? I mean, the narcissist is something that's clouding the real Joe, right?
Yeah. It grabs a hold of you. It's one of those things that grabs a hold of you. And if you can't break the grip of it, it will consume you.
It's his default.
Yes.
And it
It's
is a
pretty
def I think that's also how do you erase that? Because I mean, that is hard friggin' wired, right?
And I'll be very honest with you, Ken. Like it creeps into our life every now and again. I mean, we just
Oh,
had a disagreement a couple of days ago about this, just because again, my default
yes.
is to and even though I don't think it's a big deal, it's not the point of me thinking it's a big deal. It's what it represents to our relationship and it,
Yeah.
the backstep to it all. So I have to be very conscious, and it's daily work. It really is.
Oh, yeah.
Some days you put more work in than others, but you can't take your foot off the gas on this one.
Mm.
You have to be conscious of everything you're doing.
Mhm.
Especially when you're like you said, the default, right? And when do you go to default? Crisis, stressful
Yeah,
moments, and or
stressful moments
some
for
stupid
sure.
argument over orange juice, you know, or something about kids. And for
Yeah,
you, it's just going to be it's an accidental default, and before you can even check yourself, before you
it's
can even
true.
your mind can catch up to what's coming out of your mouth or your
That's right.
behavior, right? It's
Mhm,
happening.
mhm.
Yeah, that is tough to undo, and especially like you said, going back to just childhood stuff you normal, right? This is how you behave as a man or a father, husband.
Well, yeah, these things, the narcissistic traits, I seen these growing up with my dad, with my mom, and my mom
Yeah,
with my
yeah,
dad. And you just think it's a way, you think it's normal. You think it's
yeah.
a
That's
way
how.
of life, right? But then you talk to someone like my wife,
Yeah,
whose parents had a great marriage and they're great people. And she looks at it and says, Jesus Christ, like this to me is just baffling. It's mind boggling. I don't feel good about it. And I'm like,
yeah,
why? What's wrong? But I didn't realize it
yeah,
until it was
yeah.
brought to my attention.
It's this kind of reminds me of a funny story I was with. I have some really good friend from college, and I know the wife and the kids, the family really well. And we were sitting just recently, and I was down in Southern California. We were sitting in the garage, and it's the end of a Sunday, and their kids happened to be home. It was around Christmas time, and we're just sitting around having a giggle about something. And the daughter just looks at me, or it might have been the father, so one of us, it might have been one of us, and she said, "You're gaslighting me." And it's like a 22-year-old or 24 years old, right? And we're gaslighting somebody. And I said, I hate to be the boomer in the room, but I'm gonna go ahead and expose myself, not like you don't know. But what the hell is gaslighting anyway? 'Cause I hear a lot of people it seems to be like a really hot phrase that everybody uses, and somebody was just called gaslighting in the room, and I'm just curious, what the heck is that? And she paused, and she didn't really know, she didn't have a very articulate answer, which is not uncommon. And then so out comes Google,
Mhm.
and as we start Googling through it, and when you Google kind of the use of gaslighting, and kind of, you go a page down or paragraph down, and at some point the mom is reading the definition, and she goes, "Oh my God, that's it, what it's like the victim." She got to the victim. If you're a victim of gaslighting, these are some of the things that happens. Makes you doubt yourself, and you're not always sure. And then you have to go back and check on even the dumbest things. Like, I went to the bathroom. Should I flush the toilet or not flush the toilet? You know, like the
Right.
silliest things. And she's like, "Oh my God, Tommy," that's her husband. She's like, "I've been gaslighting you for the last 22 years. And look at what's become of you. Look what it's done to you." And so, and it was around narcissism and everything else, right? And so we just had, it was the funniest giggle, but it was a little bit true, because Tommy does have, like, he's actually got some of those attributes where he's checking in a little too often
Mm,
for a grown man.
yeah.
Um, checking to make sure he's on the right path, even though, it's like I said, it's going to the toilet. Do I use fix? Yeah, but can I use 6 sheets of paper or 8 too many? You know, just one of those where you're not even sure about your own hygiene. But
Oh,
anyways, quite is at least it can have a giggle at times when
yeah,
you're going through. Hopefully, Joe, you can take a giggle, and Carol, you guys can laugh
yes,
Oh, we have a
when you
lot of
do
fun.
see.
We do.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, when you, at least when you look at each other and I think it does heal. It makes it a little bit more healing if you could have some fun at it.
You
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah. Boy, what a road. I don't know if I missed this from the beginning. How long ago? When was this? Was this last fall?
It was about, I
Or
would say 2.5 years
two,
ago.
two
It
and a half
was,
K.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
right. It was after your father, right. After your father had passed. And that was just
Mhm.
around after COVID and everything.
Yeah, the tail end of COVID, maybe.
Yeah. It was
Yeah.
like 2020, October 1st, 2021.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Boy, it does make me want to reach back out to the lady I interviewed and check in with her. She was
Mm.
making
Yeah.
she was making her grand escape. I think it was 2 days later or the next day.
That'd be interesting to know how that went.
I actually need to I will follow up. I was just searching
Mhm.
through. I'm doing a speech tonight for Toastmasters. I don't know if you've ever heard of
Oh, great.
Toastmasters.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I just rejoined after an absence, and so I'm starting over with my icebreaker speech.
Oh, nice. Good
And
luck.
yeah, so I had to go back and thank you. I had to go back and look through. I wanted to quote a couple of the guests that I had met. A couple of names,
Mhm.
and I just couldn't pull that. I couldn't remember the names exactly. So I was going back through my iTunes. I had to go all the way back to
Oh
the,
boy.
I think it was Steve was my third or fourth. I'm sorry, it's my fifth interview.
Oh, wow.
Oh, geez.
Going
Yeah, it was
back.
it's a great story. I mean, Steve is a great story. He's passed away.
Oh.
Yeah, and so I picked two people that have passed away that
Mm,
I know of on the show. That
right.
I interviewed. And, that's the idea of the immortality of doing these kind of interviews, and especially the jar where it's very personal. And you
Yeah.
Mhm.
sit there and you answer question like that after question after question, for
Wow.
about an hour.
Wow.
Oh,
So you
wow.
really, yeah, it's a really powerful. And so it's powerful in that as I said before, you get heard,
Mhm.
and the power of being heard. And I think for you, Joe, letting Carol be heard in some ways is easy for you now, or easier. Harder is to listen
Yeah.
without that I would imagine. I guess I'm going to put myself in, put words in your mouth. Um, Listening without having your own voice, that narrative of whatever your voice would be saying, but just listening to Carol or listening to your children without
Mhm.
that voice that's programmed in your head, that's going to
Mhm.
be giving you some sort of narrative around the default personality.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, I would
Which was
imagine
always
that's.
defensive. Always defensive.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and it's always defensive. Yeah, because hell, I never did anything wrong. I'm in rock. I'm perfect. Come on, bro.
Exactly.
Oh, it's easy to take. Just sometimes Joe, just lay down and just take it. Just lay down and and just take it. Yep, that was me.
Absolutely.
I'm owning it.
He's a tough guy.
Yeah, like you said, a big teddy bear in there somewhere, right?
That's right.
Oh, what a beautiful story. Well, so we've got, what's going to be the website that you're going to put up, and let's go back and kind of how do people find you, and how do they either support what you're doing, or how do they come to you and have a conversation as a couple or
Yeah.
an
Well,
individual?
right now we have Live, Laugh, Shower Together, a little pun on words of live, laugh, love. And we are on Instagram, TikTok, and we also have a podcast.
Oh, okay,
Called
great.
Live, Laugh, Shower Together. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And
Mhm.
live, laugh, shower
Shower
together.
together.
That is very cute. I love that. Well, let's do one more question.
Okay.
Just because we're having fun, and
Yeah.
that last one was pretty good. That got us, that brought up some good stuff. We'll do one question and then we'll kind of find some way to wrap it up.
Okay.
Okay. Since it's a good one for you guys,
Okay.
you qualify. What is something every parent should know?
Ooh, I will just easily say love your children unconditionally.
Hmm.
We
And
all love our children, but unconditionally is a whole other skill.
Yeah.
I'll
It's not easy.
say, listen to your children. Be willing to listen. No
Hmm.
matter how hard the conversation may seem or sound, be very neutral in the conversation, because believe me, they take your word very, very literally. So.
It is that judgment thing. I think you said that earlier, Carol.
Mhm.
You know, I'll listen, and I may not be my best self right away, but I'll get there.
Yep.
And so I'll do it. I love you no matter what. And the judgment, there might be a little bit of some funny stuff in the beginning, but overall, no, I won't.
It's called
I'm not.
shock.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
called shock. When I get over the shock, you'll find mom, and
That's right.
I'll try to be the best human I can around that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, I got to say, Joe and Carol, you guys I got nothing but love for you, and what you're doing
Thank
is
you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, Ken.
absolutely baller. And
Thank you so much.
especially interviewing, that one interview really struck me. So
Mhm.
to know that you dug in, Carol, and that that's, geez, that in some ways that was the easy decision and the bad decision, but an easy decision, right? Somebody would
Yes.
say there was the bad decision and the easy decision, and then the reality is that the getting Joe on board was the real hard work.
Absolutely.
And then just, damn it, the work just started at that point, right? You hadn't
Yep.
really gotten anywhere other than Joe maybe pretending to want to go along until you knew whether he was serious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Constant work.
Constant work. Oh, I could imagine. We'll talk offline a bit. I got a couple of thoughts.
Okay.
Thanks again so much.
Thank you, Ken, for having us
Thank you,
and
Ken.
having us share our message.
Yeah. Hang around for 30 seconds. Talk offline.
Will do.
Thanks everybody for listening and supporting mental health today. Like I said, if you're still here and you're on an audio version, jump down and give us some stars. And if you have any thoughts or comments on how to make the show better or kind of people to interview, please leave that as well. Thanks again, everybody.
Yeah, loose, baby.
But we're about to go and make this vessel with these great professionals in public glass. We're not part of the community, but we're from the outer family of glass blowing. Yeah, we're gonna go make a magical giant jar with optic lenses so that if you turn it, it changes all the time. So if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.